Hey, how's it going? It's Nick here, and today I just wanted to try something new. For a long time, I've always wanted to try photo revere, but I could never really figure out how it's done. A lot of the papers and tutorials that I've read always refer to this like photosensitive carbon paper that they transfer off to the plate, and for the life of me, I could not figure out like how it's made or where to get it. Uh, and then I was scrolling around and I kind of saw this kind of like printable transfer, toner transfer to copper plates for PCB board making. And I thought, what if I could apply that to a copper plate and use it for some photo etching for printmaking? And so that's what we're going to try here today. And as with every etching project, you need to start with a nice clean copper plate. And so I've got this copper plate here that's been sitting in storage for a long time. It's pretty dirty, but something that I wouldn't really care about too much. You've already watched me kind of take off a bunch of gunk with some mineral spirits, and then I'm going to go ahead and start polishing and degreasing this plate. And so this Foots brand metal polish is my personal favorite. I don't know, I find it at Ace Hardware, but there's many other metal polishes that work just as great. And once this plate's been all polished up, we need to go and degrease it. And my personal favorite degreaser is this bone and meat powder. I also get this at Ace Hardware, and I find that it does some pretty powerful work to degrease pretty much, your cookware, but in this case also copper plates. And so a little bit of this powder and a little bit of alcohol or water to kind of, turn it up into a slurry, and I go ahead and just work that across, and that really kind of burns out any little bit of grease that's left. Afterwards, I'm going to rinse it under the sink and see if there's any spots that still kind of repel the water, and if there's not, that means I've got a nice perfectly degreased plate. And first, you can see right here I've got the back side that is not degreased, which I don't really need it to be, and all that water beads off like that, versus when I take it over to the degreased side, that water sheets off nice and evenly. And that's what I'm looking for. And then afterwards, I'm going to quickly blot it off to get any little residual water off. I don't want any water spots or anything like that on my copper plate. As for a design, I took some reference photos from another project, and I decided that I was going to play with that. And so here I have a crushed can of Dr. Pepper, this photo that I took. And once I found the picture that I like, I'm going to open up a new canvas and just kind of make it the size of the image that I want it to be. So in this case, it's going to be 5x5. I definitely need it to be smaller than 8.5x11, so I can run it through a printer. I'm just going to run 300 DPI for now because I don't know how much this like PnP blue transfer paper can handle. And then I'm going to go ahead and make my image black and white so I have a better idea of how it's going to look once it's printed in black ink on white paper. And then I'm going to bring it over to my properly sized canvas, and I'm going to play with the contrast a little bit, trying to get a little bit more value scale out of this, just kind of play around until I'm happy with how it looks, kind of. So once I'm happy with how it looks, I'm going to go ahead and get this ready to transfer over to my plate. And so what I'm going to do is kind of size it up and make this canvas the size of my copper plate. So that 5x5 was the image size that I wanted, and then now this little 6x9 canvas is now the size of the copper plate that I'm going to print on, and I'm just going to shift it over to the side so I could use the other side for something else if I want to. Nothing too deep about that. And looking at it right now, Dr. Pepper can on the white background is how I want my finished print to look. And so before I can transfer this to the plate, I need to do a few things. I'm going to quickly merge that white background to my image layer so they're a single layer, and then I'm going to go up to image, adjustments, and then inverse. So basically everything that is white will become black. We can invert all the colors because for this transfer to work, all of the toner is going to be our resist, and so that's going to block the ferric chloride from touching the plate. And so all the white areas here are open, and that's where the ferric chloride is going to go in and bite. And so basically I just got to inverse the image, and you can also see that it is still right read, and so I can still like read all the text. I'm printing off what I want it to look like. As for printing this thing, you can see that there's kind of like this matte side, which I assume is the transfer side, and this glossy side, which I assume is like a Mylar carrier or something like that. And I'm going to load it into my printer, and so you need kind of like a genuine toner printer, inkjet printers. Probably you don't work with this process, and so I'm going to load it. Make sure you know which side your printer prints on, and then I'm going to send the file on over. And so I didn't halftone the image in Photoshop. I just wanted to see if this whole process could handle whatever the printer throws out, which I assume is like a 300 dpi, kind of like a halftone standard thing. And so it looks like a standard, computer print. And now I'm going to go ahead and cut down 2 sides of this print, so I have a little bit of a corner to register this to, and then we're going to go ahead and start ironing this. And so I'm going to line up that little corner for registration, and then the instructions say to kind of have it on like the highest polyester setting you can have, so not as high as cotton. I definitely know steam. I can definitely attest to that. If it's too hot, it will melt the mylar backing of this. And so I'm just going to kind of start gently, just kind of like tack it down. And then once it's in place and I'm not worried about it shifting too much, I'm going to really like bear into it and try to really press this on. And I ironed this plate for like a genuine 5 minutes. This footage is at 10x speed, just to really try and get it stuck down. I did end up having a problem with some air bubbles. You can kind of see them here. And I tried a lot of things to get rid of the air bubbles. I tried squeegeeing, I tried burnishing, I tried really pressing it in with the corner of the iron. I could not get a lot of these air bubbles out. I think that's the main problem with this, but we'll see here. I made a few mistakes. I did try to take like an X-Acto knife and like pop the air bubbles and then iron them out. Huge mistake. Do not do this because those scratches leave marks in the final print. Anyway, after you're done ironing, the instructions say to immediately rinse it under cold water, and so that's what I did here. And then just kind of let it, cool the whole thing down or whatever it does while this happens. After you're done with the cold bath, we're going to go ahead and peel it up, and you can see I still had a lot of air bubbles to deal with. And I don't know, when I saw other people do it online, it was so easy. They did it with the iron. The instructions say to do an iron. But I think most people have success with something like a hot laminator or something like that can apply like a nice even pressure and some heat. But I tried this a few different times trying to get rid of as many air bubbles as I could, and at some point I decided that I'm just going to live with these bubbles and it's going to be a part of the image. And then for my next step, I'm going to apply a rosin aquatint over my plate. So those of you who are experienced etching printmakers might know that these big open areas right here like this would become an open bite if I just let the ferric eat away at it. And so I need to create some sort of small randomized dot pattern of non-etched surface so I can kind of keep my pits and valleys nice and distinct for the printing process. And so I'm going to load my plate into the rosin box, and I'm just going to let it sit in there. Every rosin box is different. In my case, it took about 2 minutes. And just like a normal aquatint, I'm looking for this kind of white powder across the surface of my plate. And so when I look at it from a low down angle, it's like an opaque kind of screen. But when I look at it from top down, it's going to look like a normal plate. I wish I could explain it better. This is why I don't teach etching. It's just something that I know when I see it. Anyway, it looks like it's got a good aquatint over it. I'm going to go ahead and take it over to the hot plate. I'm going to flash that rosin so it fuses down to the plate and doesn't come off when you wash it in the ferric. And so I've got the hot plate set to 450, and I'm just going to use these spatulas to make sure it ensures good contact to the hot plate, and you'll kind of see it happen in real time. That kind of white powdery rosin starts to turn into like a transparent color, and so you can kind of see it there on those corners that I kind of touched it down. And then we'll just kind of wait until it spreads all the way across the whole plate. And as soon as all the rosin is turned transparent, I'm going to take it off the hot plate because I don't want to overcook it. Otherwise, it's going to melt into a puddle and just kind of create a impenetrable barrier that I don't want. And so just like that, rosin is flashed, and I'm going to go take it over to the plate shear because it's a big metal surface and just let it cool down. I love these little spatulas. I always feel like I'm a pizza chef or something, just hauling pizza around, popping it in the oven, pulling it out, and serving the hungry prints up. Now obviously I don't want all of these splotches in my nice clean margins. It would look a little unsightly, and so I'm going to use a Sharpie to kind of cover it all up. and Sharpie I found makes a pretty good resist against the ferric chloride if you're not going to put it in there for more than like 30 minutes at a time. And for this aqua tint, it's going to go by pretty fast, and so I don't think it'll be in there for that long. And so I'm just going to give it a nice juicy layer of Sharpie to where I can't see any of the copper peeking from underneath it, and then prep it for its bath. And then off screen, I went ahead and covered the backside of this with some contact paper, just so that the ferric chloride doesn't eat away the reverse side of this plate. And I'm going to treat this image as if it was an aqua tint plate, and so I would say probably around like 10 minutes. It gives me some nice rich blacks, and so that's how long I'm going to leave it in the ferric chloride bath. I'm just going to drop it in for 10 minutes and then pull it out, and just one singular etch. And so into the bath it goes to be etched away by the ferric chloride. I set a timer on my phone for 10 minutes, and once it's done, we're going to pop it out. I've got a bath of water handy nearby, so I can kind of rinse off all of this ferric. It's very difficult to do this all with one hand and try to record with the other hand, but overall everything looks like it's a success so far. The PnP blue resist doesn't look like it melted off in the ferric bath or anything like that. And so after a thorough rinsing with the water to make sure I'm not getting ferric on my other surfaces, I'm going to remove all of this PnP resist with some acetone, because I know that acetone dissolves toner and other plastics like that. And so generous amounts of that, and it looks like it's removing it with no problem at all. And so acetone evaporates very fast, and so I kind of have to go with like a very quick back and forth of spray, wipe, and then spray, and then wipe, and so on and so forth. But once all of that resist is gone, I think we are ready to print. No more processing or anything like that. So for the printing, we're going to go with my go-to, some Gamblin Portland Etching Black, mixed with a tiny bit of tack reducer to make it a little bit easier to wipe. And then I'm going to use a little piece of scrap mat board, spread it across all of the image area, and then I'm going to come back in with that same clean side of that and then scrape up as much as I can just to remove excess ink. It means less wiping with the tarlatan. And then after that, I like to hold my plate in one hand and then pounce on it with the tarlatan with my other hand. Kind of also feels like I'm a pizza maker throwing some dough, but I'm basically going to force all the ink into the tiny little cracks while also wiping away some of the ink on the surface of the plate. And then lastly, I come in with a piece of newsprint, and then I just kind of wipe away the surface of the plate, try not to get too deep into those grooves, but just taking away the ink from the very top surface of the plate to kind of give me like a nice bright white contrast. And after a print or two to get the pressure and the wiping right, that looks like a black and white photo of a Dr. Pepper can, And so overall, I would say that this process, it does work. It does, create a photo engraved image that I can print like an etching, which is pretty cool. From a distance, I would say that, this image is only 5 inches by 5 inches, and it's from a distance, it looks like, a photo. It doesn't really look too much like a computer print with the texture of the paper, on all that stuff. But when you get really close into it here, like I did when I scan it and I zoom it in, you can see that the pitch black areas that rely on the rosin aqua tint are a nice randomized dot pattern. But the other gray tones, you can see that it does have that digital half toning to it, which, I don't really like too much. But honestly, I am impressed that it got that fine of a detail just from the blue transfer on its own, which is pretty cool. But to wrap this video up, personally, I don't know how I feel about this process. It's cool that I can do it and that it works, and the whole process was rather, fun to experiment with. But ultimately, I don't really see what place this has in my toolbox, because it kind of doesn't do anything more special than I could already do. Like, it kind of, it still has a halftone like a Xerox print. It does And it doesn't really do anything else that like I could do an acetone transfer to the stone. If I wanted to manipulate it, I could manipulate a lithograph easier than I could manipulate an etching. And so really this does feel like I'm taking a computer print with extra steps. You know, I don't really know what I could do to elevate this into like, you know, something super nice or worthy of me, you know, full on art process or building an image around it. But I figured I would make this video, wrap it up, and then sending it out into YouTube. Maybe someone else will get inspired or know what to do with this process. But I figured I'd be sitting on this video for a long time trying to figure out what the next evolution of this process is to kind of really make it into a work of art. Anyway, those are my thoughts. There's something cool that I wanted to show you all. Hopefully someone else can kind of take this, run with it, have some fun. But until next time, keep on printing, make cool things, and I'll see you in the next video.